Hello class, and welcome to Unit 9, Motivating Students in the Classroom. This lecture will help you understand why some students may not be motivated and learn strategies for motivating them. Here's our agenda for this lecture. We're going to talk about the different types of theories we've been learning, causes of lack of motivation for adolescents, types of motivation, 5 motivation theories, and classroom strategies that align with those theories. Finally, we'll be discussing characteristics of specific feedback. So far, we've discussed cognitive learning theories, social emotional theories, moral development theories, behavioral learning theories, social cognitive theories, information processing theories, and this week we'll discuss motivation theories, which focus on the reasons students are motivated or not motivated in the classroom. The important thing to understand about motivation from the start is that infants and young children are motivated. Think about it. They're propelled by curiosity, driven by an intense need to explore, interact with, and make sense of their environment. But then something happens. It usually kicks in around middle to late elementary school and progresses rapidly in middle school. They lose that passion for learning. A large number of students, more than 1 in 4, leave school before graduating. Many more are physically present in the classroom but largely mentally absent. They fail to invest themselves fully in the experience of learning. It's lazy thinking as a teacher to believe that you have nothing to do with that. It's lazy thinking to claim that students are just lazy. Instead, we as teachers need to take on the responsibility of trying to motivate our students. You won't win 100% of the time, but chances are you'll make a difference. First, let's discuss why some students are not motivated. It could have something to do with school, but it might not. There could be problems in the home or school environment. For example, students may be hungry at home. It's hard to focus on learning if you come to school hungry. They may be feeling overwhelmed by the work level that they have in school. They may feel like the work doesn't matter to them. They may despair because they believe there's no way to catch up if they get too far behind. They may have an underlying or misdiagnosed learning disability. They may be bored. There are many causes and many reasons for motivation. What the 5 theories that we're going to be learning all have in common is that they address one or more of these causes. Let's talk about some different types of motivation. First, let's discuss intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is the desire to engage in activities because they are inherently pleasurable. There's no obvious reward. No one's saying to you, do this and I'll give you money, or do this and I'll give you a reward. For example, if you love hiking, then hiking is an intrinsically enjoyable activity. It could be that hiking is a good activity that just motivates you to do it and keep healthy because you enjoy it. On the other hand, you may not enjoy going to a gym and working out on machines, and so that you might have to be externally rewarded for, which we'll discuss in a minute. So things that you enjoy doing, just because they're pleasurable, you have an intrinsic motivation to do. Intrinsic motivation is the more desirable type of motivation because it is controlled by the student, valued more, and so it results in longer-term, more sustained motivation. For example, a young child reaches out to grab an object, turns it over, and pushes it away in an effort to control it. That child may, even though they are an infant, may keep at that activity for a very long time because she's simply enjoying it. A 4-year-old is full of whys. He is trying to understand the world around him. Asking questions is an intrinsically motivating activity. A girl is playing computer games and loves it. She's trying to control that virtual world. People ask, why are students who won't do their homework engaged with computer games? And it's because they are intrinsically motivated to do it. They get an inherent pleasure from doing it. You want to become a teacher and so are intrinsically motivated, hopefully, to complete assignments. Another type of motivation is called extrinsic motivation. This is motivation based on rewards or external factors. A punishment or a reward is given by someone external to the student, usually a parent or a teacher, and there's no sense of internal pleasure. You have to be given something to do the activity. Here are some examples. Students are motivated because they know they will get a pizza party for a semester of good behavior. The extrinsic reward is the pizza party. Good behavior is not necessarily intrinsically motivating to them. A child is motivated to clean her room because her mother will take her to a movie. The child wants to go to the movie. That's the extrinsic reward. The behavior itself, cleaning her room, is not intrinsically motivating. An adolescent turns in an assignment because he knows his parents will ground him if his grades drop. The adolescent doing the assignment is the behavior. We're trying to encourage the threat of punishment if his parents ground him is the extrinsic motivator. A student is punished with detention by the teacher for getting out of his seat. These are all examples of behaviors that are extrinsically motivated. As we said before, intrinsic motivation is the more desirable motivation. You can actually diminish intrinsic motivation if you give too many rewards in the classroom. Students will come to depend on those rewards. So let's say you have an intrinsically interesting activity, but you structure it in such a way that requires students to get a reward. Students will come to value that extrinsic reward more than the intrinsically motivating activity. The best type of reward comes from pleasure when students work on the task. So this is why we must make learning engaging in the classroom. Sometimes if you use too many expected tangible rewards for doing simply tasks that they should be doing, you diminish intrinsic motivation. Let's discuss 5 important motivation theories that are in the field of educational psychology. We'll be discussing Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Eccles' expectancy value theory, attribution theory, goal theory, and Dweck's theory of motivation. Let's discuss Maslow first. I love this quote. In teaching, you can't do the Bloom stuff until you take care of the Maslow stuff. Maslow focused on the need to provide students with base level security and safety. And he said you can't really motivate students until those needs are taken care of. He represented his theory, which is called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, with a pyramid. At the very bottom of the pyramid, you'll see physiological needs like breathing, food, water, sex, sleep, homeostasis, and excretion. These are the very basic needs of humans, and they must be taken care of before the other needs are met. Safety, the security of the body, of employment, of resources, of morality, of the family, of health, of property. People must feel safe before they can learn. Your classroom must be turned into a place of safety where students believe they won't be insulted or assaulted before they can learn. Love and belonging comes next. This refers to the need for friendships, for family, for intimacy. Above that, esteem. Students must feel self-esteem, confidence, achievement, respect of others, and respect by others. The final level is called self-actualization. Ideally, if the lower levels are met, the student, the individual, can be creative, spontaneous, solve problems, lack prejudice, accept facts, be moral. The idea here again is that base level needs must be met before higher level needs can be achieved. What are some strategies aligned with Maslow's theory? First, become familiar with the home life of your students. Understand if there's a hunger problem or a safety problem at home. If there is, you might have to go and bring that to the attention of the school. Help ensure that students are safe, secure, have a home, and have enough to eat. Again, this may require involving others, a counselor, the administration, or more. And 3, help students feel safe in your own classroom by having a set of rules and being consistent about consequences for breaking those rules. Our second theory is called Eccles' expectancy value theory. Jacqueline Eccles said that the things that determine a student's achievement motivation are number 1, the expectancy for success, plus number 2, incentive for success. Expectancy for success has to do with whether the student feels like they can be successful. If you don't feel like you can be successful, it is unlikely that you will try. Incentive for success refers whether the individual values the task. Let's take an example. Suppose you are teaching a unit in science on pollution, water pollution. There's a way to present that that's very dry by having students read about water pollution in the textbook and answering questions. However, what if you set it up so that it's more engaging by having students go out to a pond and measure actual water pollution levels? What if you scaffolded students' learning so they expected to be successful? Here you have an engaging activity that's hands-on, so students are more likely to value the task more. Plus, you have given them additional scaffolding so that they expect to succeed. Here are some further examples of expectancy value theory. A student studies many hours to pass his teaching certification exam. He believes he can pass it because his professors have encouraged him. He expects to succeed. He values the task. Without passing the exam, he won't become a teacher. A woman has been promoted at work and hopes to secure her next big promotion, which comes with a big raise. She expects to succeed because she's been promoted before. She values the task because it comes with additional money. External rewards, like additional money, can sometimes be beneficial in increasing that task value. So Eccles did talk about rewards for tasks, but as they are connected to making the task inherently more valuable. A girl really wants to make her school basketball team. Her father has been watching her practice for many hours before tryouts and says she has what it takes. She is ready. The father has increased the girl's expectancy for success by encouraging her and telling her that she's ready. The girl values the task because she wants to play on the school's basketball team. What are some strategies aligned with Eccles' theory? First, find out what success means to students and help them find a way to be successful. Perhaps success to students means getting good grades. However, to other students, it might mean getting praise from you. Give students a chance to shine. You can encourage students and give them a value. You can encourage students and help them expect to succeed by giving them individual chances in the spotlight. Give the student a path toward academic success. If the student is struggling, you might offer tutoring sessions. You might offer extra credit and help them understand that it's still possible to pass. And finally, make learning engaging and meaningful. Help them value the task by showing them how it's important to them. Attribution theory explains how people view the causes of their behavior and their outcomes. Have you ever heard someone say, "That teacher just doesn't like me"? This is very different than a student saying, "I didn't put enough work into the assignment." An internal locus of control is when an individual believes causes are under his or her control. An external locus of control, the individual believes that things just happen and they can't control them. In the example about the teacher not liking the student believes the teacher doesn't like him, so he will fail the class. That's an external locus of control because there's nothing you can do about it. However, the student who says, "I failed because I didn't put enough effort into," has an internal locus of control because he is attributing, there's that word attribution, he's attributing his lack of success to a lack of effort, and he can control that. Let's look at some further examples of statements indicating an external or internal locus of control. We've already talked about the first one. "That teacher hates me, so I'll never pass her task." External locus, because the student doesn't feel like events are under his control. "I'm just not good at math, and so I don't try," is also an external locus statement. Here, the student believes that she's just not good and there's nothing she can do about that. So that's an external locus. "If I study harder, my grade will go up." That's an internal locus because the student's effort, something that she can control, is the cause of the event. "Although I don't always understand math, I can improve over time." That's an internal locus of control because the student feels like she can improve. Which is better, an internal or an external locus of control? You can probably guess that we want to develop an internal locus of control because students will believe they have greater control over their learning. Research also shows they are more likely to persist when the work is difficult. What are some strategies aligned with attribution theory? First, help students understand the role of their own effort in learning by pointing out how effort relates to outcome. Teach students that their success is under their own control. Discuss internal versus external locus of control with students and help them understand which is better and why. Goal theory is another theory that has to do with motivation. It's an overall approach to motivation that emphasizes the need to establish goals as extrinsic motivators. Students will pursue the goals as so long as he or she is committed to it, has the pre-existing ability to attain it, and doesn't have conflicting goals. Goal theory also states that several conditions are particularly important to successful achievement. These include goal acceptance and commitment from the student, goal specificity, goal difficulty, and feedback. If you have a student who is struggling with motivation, sit down with that student and help him or her establish goals that are attainable, reasonable, and specific. and then use a process to work through the goals with the students. Here are some strategies aligned with goal theory. First, set achievable goals with students and meet with them regularly to review their progress. Make sure that these goals are achievable, which means you might have to provide more scaffolding. Praise students for progress towards goals. Frequently, students who are underachievers have trouble with organizing their learning into achievable goals. So you might sit down and say, Billy, here is your project. Let's break it down into manageable steps. And then we're going to set a goal and a date to achieve each goal. And then meet with Billy, and if he's achieved the goal, praise him. You might provide an extrinsic motivator and move on. If he hasn't met the goal, try breaking it down further, providing more help, more scaffolding, etc. A final theory is Dweck's theory of motivation, sometimes called mastery goal orientation versus performance goal orientation or mindset. Carol Dweck said that there were two types of goals: mastery goals and performance goals. When students have a mastery goal orientation, it means they believe they can make progress towards goals. There is less emphasis on ability, and they are less likely to give up when times are tough. However, students who have performance goal orientation measure themselves in terms of black and white thinking against an artificial set of goals, for example, grades, and they think that they have failed or succeeded. There's a high emphasis on ability, and they are likely to give up when times are tough. Students who have a mastery goal orientation are more likely to think to themselves, I can change this. I can work harder to improve. I can do something specific to improve. Students who have a performance goal orientation are more likely to say, I'm only getting Fs, I'm no good in math. There's nothing I can do to improve. What the research suggests is that one strategy using specific feedback for students which focuses on progress towards a specific outcome and not on ability or external standards such as grades is very effective. Many times in the classroom we give general feedback. We'll say good job, or we'll say love that work. Students will often internalize that as, okay, I must be really good at this. But if you stop giving that type of feedback, even if you forget to give it, the student might internalize it as saying, I'm not really good at this anymore. Instead of giving general feedback, you need to be giving specific feedback. We're going to talk about what that is. And I want you to remember that you can use the hamburger method to give that type of feedback, where you give the student praise, how to improve, and give them encouragement. Let's talk about effective feedback for a moment. Researchers suggest that students only get about 7 seconds of effective, specific feedback in the classroom per day. And yet, research also indicates this is one of the most important things you can do, not only to help students improve their learning, but to improve their motivation. Feedback itself is the transfer of information from the teacher to student based on assessment. Sometimes teachers are reluctant to give specific feedback because they feel it is criticizing the student. It is not criticizing the student. It is helping the student to improve, and that is your role as a teacher. There are 5 rules of specific feedback that may help change a student from a performance goal learner to a mastery goal learner. Rule number 1 is encourage specific rather than general feedback. So don't just say, good job. Tell the student what they did well. You did a good job conjugating verbs on that assignment. Rule number 2 is base feedback on objectives or standards rather than on their ability or just general. You don't say, great work. You say, you were making progress towards writing this type of poetry. I like how your words evoke sensory images. So if the objective or standard that you're working on is a type of poetry, base your feedback on that. Rule number 3 is praise students' progress towards a goal or mastery and not internal attributes like whether they are smart or whether they're good at something. So don't say, you're so good at math, because the student then comes to internalize they're good or they're not good at something. And we don't want to do that. That leads to a performance goal orientation. Instead, base your feedback on their progress towards a standard. I can tell you've mastered how to do 2-digit division. Rule number 4 is avoid comparing students to others. So you wouldn't say, Sally understands better than anyone how to do this science experiment. You don't say that for a number of reasons. First of all, it leads to student jealousy and envy. You've just doomed Sally to a whole boatload of negative feelings. And second, you don't want to have students rating and comparing themselves, which leads to a performance goal orientation. Instead, compare Sally to Sally. You do this by comparing her progress this month to where she was before. Sally, you have learned over the last month how to write hypotheses. The 5th rule of feedback is to add something qualitative that will allow students to improve. So an okay type of feedback is nice job of counting those blocks. It's specific, but it would be better to say nice job of counting those blocks. Try touching them one at a time as you say the numbers. That's a way to improve. I like to use what I call the hamburger method for feedback. It begins with praise. It continues with a sentence or two of specific feedback that's focused on how to make progress towards meeting a learning standard or objective. And end with praise. Here's an example. Sam, I really like how neatly you wrote your essay. Next time, try starting with the thesis in the first paragraph. You're getting there. This is called the hamburger method because the praise is the bun, the meat is the specific feedback, and the praise or encouragement is the bun. If we follow this type of specific feedback and specific praise, we are encouraging students to become mastery learners because they will compare themselves to themselves and not to other people. Or they will compare themselves and think about their progress rather than how they compare to other students. Here's a summary of the things we've learned in this lesson. Theories of motivation help us understand why students are motivated or not. Many different factors may cause a student to be unmotivated. Students may be motivated by intrinsic or extrinsic factors. 5 motivation theories, including Maslow's hierarchy of needs, expectancy value theory, attribution theory, goal theory, and Dweck's theory of motivation, have been discussed. Classroom strategies align with each of these theories. Effective feedback is specific, focuses on progress towards a standard, is encouraging, and provides ways to improve. And finally, you may use the hamburger method to provide effective, specific feedback. Thank you, and I hope that these motivation strategies have helped improve your understanding of adolescent motivation in the classroom.